defining moment. The universe emerged out of nothingness like a bright idea, and so has each one of us. Born into this world unique and gifted. A masterpiece cast like never before and never after. A magnificent work of art, and each one of us an artist too, eager to paint the canvas of life. Remember as a child, you woke up each morning full of wonderful ideas and dreams. Dreams where everything was possible. You wanted to change the world, and you believed that you could. Believed in superheroes, and believed you could be one. And then it all slowly slipped away. But that does not mean that superheroes do not exist. These heroes stepped out of nothingness into greatness. They were ordinary folks who wanted to make a difference, who believed in their dreams. They were just like you and me, except where everyone else saw the rubble, they saw a palace standing. And when everyone else was enveloped with the darkness of self-doubt, they saw light within.
I am Simerjeet Singh, and I believe that the same light flickers in you and in me. I also believe that you have everything you need to reach the pinnacle of your success. And I'm here to tell you that the only person standing between you and your success, between you and your dreams, is you. And it can all change in the moment the voice inside you says, yes, I can. Yes, I can live with passion and purpose. Yes, I can lead. Yes, I can make a difference. I am the artist and the world is my canvas. I am the superhero I once believed in as a child. And that defining moment is now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Beginner's Mind series. Our guest today is all the way from New York City, Mr. Christopher Salem. Let's please welcome him first of all with a big round of applause. Thank you, Chris, for taking out the time.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, good morning to you. I know it's evening here in India and morning there in New York City. And what an interesting time to be alive, to be having this conversation continents apart. And I'm so glad I ran into your LinkedIn profile, and the work that I saw there is very interesting. Let me share with the viewers some of your accomplishments and your introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris is a CEO, an executive mentor, and a corporate trainer dedicated to companies of all sizes. He helps them to create independent work environment through a growth mindset methodology. I'm a big fan of the growth mindset myself, so I'm sure we'll have a great conversation here today. He works his magic by successfully understanding the root cause behind the effects of self-limiting beliefs in people's lives. So he believes in uncovering the root cause, and he believes that therein lies the reason why people are not able to achieve their full potential. An experienced keynote speaker serving industry associations, companies, charities, and more, an award-winning author, a radio show host himself, media personality whose content has been shared as an influencer on many different platforms, and also on the shows such as Entrepreneurs on Fire, media outlets such as ABC, CBS, Fox News, and NBC, is the author of 2 best-selling books, Master Your Inner Critic and Mastering the Art of Success. And I'm sure there's a lot of things we'll have to talk about just based on these titles of your books itself, Chris, Mastering Your Inner Critic and Mastering the Art of Success. And, when you talk about the first title, I'm reminded of a couplet by the famous Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore, who said, spring has passed and summer has gone and winter is here. And the song that I wanted to sing remains unsung because I have spent my days stringing and unstringing my instrument. So part of the inspiration, Chris, how we are able to do these interviews comes from the understanding that things will never ever be perfect, and we must move on and do the important stuff either way. And Chris is also the CEO and co-founder of the Empowered Fathers in Action, a 501c3 organization dedicated to strengthening the father-son bonding. So welcome once again, Chris, to the show. I appreciate you taking out the time.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction.
And I know it's like 5:30 a.m. for you in the morning.
No, it's 8 o'clock, just after 8 in the morning.
Okay,
Here, so,
all right, my bad.
But for me, it's like lunchtime because I get up at 4:15 every
Oh,
morning.
wow. Okay. And that's the first thing I'd like to begin with.
So I've been up for a while.
Yeah, you've been up for a while, up at 4 a.m., 8:30 a.m., which is breakfast time for most people, is lunchtime for you. So talk to us about this early morning thing. What drives you to do this? And are there any early morning rituals to get your day started?
Yeah. I've been waking up every morning at 4:15 for the last almost 22 years. Mm-hmm. So I'm a strong believer that having a daily routine is what really not only sets your success foundation, but actually sustains the success that you seek in your life and your business long term. Doesn't mean you're not going to go through challenges or setbacks. So what I do is every morning I wake up at 4:15, and the reason why I get up so early because obviously my wife is sleeping. My mother-in-law who lives with us is sleeping, my son, so on. It gives me that time to really get into a level of clarity and focus. So the first thing I do is I make my bed. I make my side of the bed because it allows me to accomplish a small task.
Mm-hmm. Your first win.
One small task leads to another, and then a bigger task. Now I don't, do my wife's side because she's still sleeping, but there have been on occasion I have covered her accidentally. And,
with your eager enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because the lights are still off. But then what I do is I meditate for 20 minutes, get into the theta wave state. I've been doing that for, like I said, for a long time. So I've gotten get into that state of mind. Uh-huh. And then I journal. I write down whatever comes to mind to see what's in there that could be blocking me.
Right.
What I can do to remove. Then after I follow that, I work out. Now I don't work out 7 days a week, but I work out 4 days a week. But I do planks 7 days a week. So I'll do some type of exercise every day after my meditation journaling. Then that's
usually at home.
Breakfast. It's either at the gym or at home, depending upon if I'm going to the gym or not.
Right.
And then I will eat a healthy breakfast, shower. And then I will read a chapter or two out of a book that is either relevant to something I'm working on personally or for a client that I'm working with. And then I will review my daily goals from the night before, focus on what the priorities that matter, and then I start my day. Now I do that 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So you can see what that discipline and consistency, that is what leads to other things. So I find that your success is measured by your daily routine, and what you do each and every morning.
I love that. And I do also believe that a lot of people are going to be fired up after listening to this, and they would start something like this. But where most of us miss out is the consistency part. It's not doing it, repeating it sufficiently for long enough so that it becomes a habit. And as I understand, it's become a natural thing for you. It's hardwired into you. Wake up first thing in the morning. You don't have to make a decision. What should I do? What should I pick? It's laid out, it's wired into your mind, which is great. Would you believe, Chris, I was speaking to another interesting gentleman yesterday who is a mindfulness coach based out of India. His name is Alok. And he talked about, in a different set of words, exactly something similar in his morning routine. And what I'm arriving at is the conclusion that successful people, one of the most important components of their day is the first 1 hour, and that's when your physical vitality, or what you're eating, your mindset conditioning, all those things go in, which is huge. It might not make a difference in a single day for somebody who's watching right now. Maybe if you started today, it might not make a difference the next day. But if you do it long enough, it changes the way you live and the way you perceive it. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that with us. Chris, I read on your LinkedIn profile that you struggled for a good 12 years with addiction and battling with your own demons, and you found a way out of it. And now you're driven. It's your life's mission to help other people overcome not only their self-limiting beliefs, but any sort of mindset traps that they might find themselves in. I would love to talk to you about this.
Sure.
Why do you feel people get addicted to stuff in the first place? What are sort of what's missing in their lives that they fall into it in the first place? And what do you feel as a coach and a speaker can help people come out of it?
Well, I mean, yes, there might be some cases where people have chemical dependencies. It could be hardwired into their genes, but for the most part, it's just something that, again, people use. Addiction is just a result of limiting beliefs from your childhood, and it's just a way to escape the pain. Because we experience these limited beliefs through triggering situations in our life, through negative emotions. That can be anger, it can be shame, guilt, jealousy. Any combination thereof. So for me, when I was struggling with 12 years of addiction, that was through bouts of alcohol, drugs, sexual addiction, and so on. That wasn't really my addiction. That was just the escape that I chose. I chose all three to escape. My real addiction was my need for validation. The need for validation that I didn't get from my father growing up, because my dad was never usually around, and when he was emotionally checked out. And because of this strong need for validation, it led me down a path of codependency. It led me down a path of being perfect. And because of these things, I was always in this fight or flight state of mind, fear-based thinking, fixed mindset, and operating in the past and the future. Limiting beliefs thrive in the past and the future. They can't thrive in the present moment. And as a result of that, to deal with the anger and the pain that I was dealing with each day, that's what I chose to do. And that was not a healthy way to deal with it. I had to really address it at the root level, the root cause. And it was only at that point, with the daily routine we just talked about, which helped me now to be able to be addiction free and to really go within to find that peace and calm that I live in each and every day of my life and how I operate my business as well.
That's great. Now, I think it brings two very important points. One is that the emotional void, which we might be trying to fulfill through substance abuse or any other sort of things, if we trace it back, it could be several years ago, as you said, in your childhood. And I completely, here's a word of caution that parents should pay attention here as well. But sometimes, as you said, we're checked out, we don't know what's going on in the lives of our kids, and that sort of creates a void, which then the young child spends years and years trying to fulfill through all these things. But it was eventually the self-reflection that came to your aid, that helped you pull yourself out of it through the journaling and your daily routines.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the triggering, the thing that got me into all of this was back when I was 30 years old, when my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer. And at the time he was diagnosed with lung cancer, it was stage 3B that went to stage 4 very quickly. They gave him a year and a half to live. My dad only survived 4 months after the diagnosis, but it was the day before he passed that I had an epiphany that if I didn't take control of my life, no matter what has happened to you, it's still your responsibility. I didn't know how to go about doing this, but this is what led me to where I am today. That was the defining moment. In this case, my dad ended up giving me the greatest gift he ever could possibly give, even though he wasn't able to do that when I was a child growing up. He made up for it just in that one moment that he gave me, that it saved my life, and it allowed me to be the example and be the resource that I am today for others to do the same for themselves. So that was the moment that said, I'm going to do something to change this. I can't point the finger at everyone else. I can't rely upon, I have to take responsibility. And that's what I did. And I found a process that worked, and to this day that I continue to use in my personal and business clients, in terms of helping them to turn their businesses and personal lives around.
Which is interesting, because so are you, in effect, you're saying the Chris before the epiphany happened was someone who was blaming everything on circumstances?
Oh yeah,
right?
I was a codependent perfectionist. Right. So I was a passive aggressive in my behavior and communication. People that are passive aggressive are very confusing to people. They're not the easiest people to have relationships with.
Yep.
When you're in the passive mode, you are pleasing and enabling others, because I had to please and enable you for your validation. That was what I was seeking. I needed to be recognized and
that's the void you were trying to fill, right?
That was the void I was trying to fill. And then I could be aggressive and put high expectations on people. They went unfulfilled, and then I would get angry and point the finger at you, and that anger would just persist for, throughout the day, for days. And the only way I could escape was through, choosing alcohol, drugs, sexual addiction to escape. So these are the things that I was able to change from being a codependent to being interdependent, learning to be an example and resourceful for people rather than just do, and please and enable, and learning that a perfectionist causes so much stress, it's exhausting, that it's all about progress and motion. It's not about
and you're never peaceful. And you're never peaceful. No. You're never offering any gratitude for all the success that you might have experienced, and despite all the progress you've made, you're still restless inside. That's the cost you have to pay for being a perfectionist. I'm reminded of one of Jack Canfield's success principles, which is take 100% responsibility. I think that's what emerged to my mind as this conversation is going forward. Take 100% responsibility, and instead of playing the victim. And what your story, I can so resonate. It resonates with me as well, because there are times when you either haven't discovered your purpose, or whatever's going on in your life is somebody else's fault. Usually the parents, right? I was speaking to Dr. Shefali Sabari the other day, who's a parenting expert in the United States, and she was also she was saying the biggest favor you can do to your kids is not to dump your unlived life onto them, right? Is to understand that your emotions are having an effect on them. But the day you start taking responsibility of how you feel, and you understand this gift is mine, and I've got to, maybe other people came in and messed it up so for me, but now whoever's got to take corrective action, it has to be me. Chris, I did notice the other day we got 62 mutual friends on Facebook. Are you also part of Jack Canfield's Train the Trainer online tribe? Is that one of the reasons why? Because
it could be, yeah. I mean, I've done, I've been, obviously I was a fan of Jack many years ago, and then happened to have an opportunity to be part of his book, Mastering the Art of Success. Jack was just on my radio show about a month ago.
Oh, really?
And yeah,
a wonderful human being. Yeah.
Yes, he is. Yes, even his partner there, Mark Victor Hansen. I've had Mark Victor Hansen on my show. Him and his wife Crystal, as well. Yeah,
that is great.
Great people.
So, as we speak about your going into and coming out of addiction, what words of inspiration would you have for people who might be struggling with an addiction right now, whether it's gambling or pornography or whatever it happens to be, or alcohol or substance abuse, or even eating disorders, because they're all, as you said, your root cause approach. You try to decode what's inside, what is the void they're trying to fill. From your experience, what are the words of inspiration you will offer them, Chris?
Well, I would say that, first of all, you're not alone. And just to know that this isn't, something that someone's going to, just do for you. You have to be able to find that willpower from within, using discipline and consistency to allow yourself to start to heal. The first step to healing is to be first aware that what is causing this and its limiting beliefs. The second is to accept where you are, and then make a commitment to do your part. See, the only thing you have to do here is to control what you can and what you know, and let go of everything else.
Move forward with that.
Too many addicts or too many people caught up in the problem, or that are struggling, overwhelmed, frustrated. These are people that are caught up in fear-based thinking. They're trying to control what they can't control. I can't control COVID. I can't control the economy. I can't control your communication or how you perceived what I said. I can't control your behavior. I can't control your attitude or actions. I can only control mine. So when you can take full responsibility for just those things for yourself, one day at a time. If you make a mistake, it's okay to learn and start where you are and do it again. Over time, that when you can get to the root cause of your limiting beliefs and really do remove them and get into a pattern of better, healthier habits, you can recreate a much better life from a place of clarity, focus, and the ability to improve your self-esteem, confidence, decision-making, risk-taking ability, and to follow through. This is a process. It's not a destination. So you're not alone. So that's what I would say, is that while it's not going to happen overnight, and while it may not be easy, you could take some of the burden off of knowing that you don't have to control everything. In this case, the things that you can't control. Focus on only what you can. And if you do that each and every day, over time, it's going to lead you out of this state of mind that you're in into a much better place.
So in essence, what you're saying is also we got to mentally declutter and try, and the energy that we've scattered on things that we have little control over, to redirect that energy back onto what you can control. I'm a big believer in that myself, and it works every single time, because the moment you allow, let's say COVID, for example, or whatever's happening around the world, things in a different part of the world which concern you. And I'm reminded of Dr. Stephen Covey's model here, the circle of influence and the circle of control. The circle of concern and the circle of concern and your circle of influence. Now, there's a lot of things you got to be concerned about. And I agree, when we scatter our energy thinking about things that we're concerned about, but we can't do anything to change them, we lose our power. We lose our ability to channelize our own life. And the moment we redirect that energy to ask ourselves a more empowering question, what can I do today to, when the day ends, that I'm feeling better, that I have this feeling of satisfaction, that it was a day well spent. So rightly, I completely agree with that, is the art of redirecting focus. And a lot of times what I see with addictions, or even people who are not taking responsibility, what I see is that they are not asking themselves the right questions. They're asking themselves the wrong questions. Wrong question like, when is this going to come to an end? When will the world return back to normal? Or who started this? I mean, you cannot find the answers to those questions. Learn to ask the right questions, which are, just as you rightly said, what can I do tomorrow in order to improve the quality of my day? Or what can I do today in order to improve the quality of my relationships? And that's when the flip happens. That's when you begin to change. So that's very profound, very deep, Chris. Instead of scattering your energy everywhere, learn the art of focus. And I use this magnifying glass always to demonstrate that point, which is, as little kids, we played with this, with the sun's rays, with magnifying glasses, burning newspapers, and sort of those little science experiments. And the same with the power of thought. Whatever you are focusing on is going to become all the way more powerful. So make sure it's the right thing. And that's the way out of addiction, or even a disempowered state of mind. Thank you. It's been a wonderful conversation so far. My next question for you, Chris, is you had a successful 26-year stint in the corporate world, especially in sales, I believe you were. What prompted the switch into the work that you're doing today?
Well, I mean, for me, it was, when my son was he was a toddler at the time. And I just knew it was at that point I wanted to be really involved in his day-to-day life. And, when he got into sports, and, again, I wanted to be the father to him that I didn't have growing up. So the thing I learned that I wanted to be involved in my son's life. And I've always had this, this ability to really coach people. And, I've been a professional speaker for 20 years, know how to connect and engage with an audience. And then, also because I did a lot of training with my staff in sales, to do that in a corporate setting and train, business executives was just kind of like innate in me. It was just something that just came natural. And when I made that transition, I was able to ramp up a very, good sized business in a few years, where today, it's my purpose. This is my passion. It's helping others to help themselves as an executive coach for personal, professional development, helping executives to build and sustain their brands and businesses by raising their level of influence, teaching them how to be more compelling to their audiences, to connect on that why based on shared values. But first, removing any limiting beliefs that can be affecting their level of confidence. And then with companies, helping them to build interdependent work environments using the growth mindset and core values as the foundation, and then facilitating that through active listening, effective communication, and transparent leadership principles.
So was this a gradual build-up, Chris, or was there an epiphany?
A gradual build-up, yeah. It just sort of migrated into this, and I work with CPA firms, dental offices, small to mid-sized corporations. I work with large corporations as well, and as a result of that, I'm helping them to kind of reshape their work cultures, where now they're engaging, it's retaining, there's higher retention, and they're seeing higher levels of productivity, efficiency, and profitability from that engagement. We're shifting them away from codependent to interdependent work environments. and we're able to help leverage strengths, offset weaknesses, implement certain processes and automation to help offset, and utilize people where they're spending their time wisely on their strengths, not caught up in these mundane tasks that really don't serve at a higher level.
And obviously, you're doing a great job at that, coaching all your clients and the organizations. I love the root cause approach, the understanding that whatever's at the surface is probably the effect, is probably the outcome.
Yes.
And the reason lies way, deeper inside. And that's something that is probably inhibiting the growth of individuals. So in your coaching and in your coaching practices, in your consulting and your speaking, what are sort of the most common self-limiting beliefs that you've come across? And what advice would you offer to people who might be struggling with, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, it's not the right time for me, I could never do this, etc., etc. These people are holding themselves back, and they could do so much more with their life.
Yeah, I would say that the most common things are, I know in my case as a male, it was the need for validation. A lot of men don't realize that they need validation. And the thing is, validation, you really don't need it. As long as you love yourself, truly love yourself authentically, that need for validation goes right out the door. But when you're growing up and you're insecure, your confidence isn't where it should be. Yep. You need
teenage years. You want to fit in.
You fit in. You're seeking this validation from outside of yourself, not from within. See, everything is from within out. I was seeking for everything about my identity outside of myself. And for women, it tends to be abandonment. And this can happen to men too. And when I talk about abandonment, it's not that you were literally abandoned by your parents, like you were left on a doorstep. It was emotionally abandoned, that you were either felt emotionally abandoned from your mother, your father, for whatever level that is. And then that can really create a lot of these fears in women, where women will have fears about relationships, about insecurities about themselves, all go back to these things back from childhood. And so we have to undo these things to get rid of them, and then or in this case, learn something different to reprogram the automatic pattern at the subconscious level. And that takes a little time, because again, you've spent all those years doing the things that you do that haven't been serving you.
Acquiring those self-limiting beliefs. Yeah. You spend a really long time acquiring them. So no surprise, it's going to take at least some time to undo it. And you got to stick with the process. Right. That's great. One of your books is titled The Inner Critic. And I love the title, because I believe this is what would make the cemetery one of the richest places in the world, because the inner critic, courtesy to the inner critic, so many books are not written, so many business ideas are never put forward, so many aha moments are not, we don't do anything about them, so many self-realizations are not acted upon. And one of the ways the inner critic manifests itself is the imposter syndrome, is people who, despite having spent a large chunk of their time, energy, learning about a field, still, as they move forward, as they progress, as they find themselves in new territory, they experience the imposter syndrome and they hold back. While someone else who probably was not qualified enough or did not even spend as much time in acquiring that skill, just because he or she madly believes in what they do, they're able to move forward. So here are well-qualified, deserving people left behind due to this inner critic, this imposter syndrome. Talk to us about, from your experience, please, about the imposter syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome again is this feeling that you're not capable, you don't know enough to really project yourself as an expert.
Right.
And the thing is that a lot of times this just goes back to these limiting beliefs telling you that you're not worthy, you're not good enough. And while we can kind of mask it for a period of time, that those limiting beliefs will resurface, and then in some ways it's just causing this internal self-sabotage that people can fall into, which the imposter syndrome is just another component to reinforce that they're not good enough. See, the reality is we all have a story, we all have experience, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and some people are really good at certain things and not good at certain things. So it's really focusing on the things that really that you are good at. What are those skills? What are those strengths? And not focusing on your weaknesses, not comparing yourself to other people. Because People that you look at that are like, oh my God, they're untouchable. These are people just like you that have their own issues in life.
Yep.
No
Their own
different. And I
flaws.
know some of these people and I know their issues and they're no different than you. So this whole imposter syndrome, throw it out the door. But now if you're out there trying to project yourself as an expert in something that you're really not, okay, that's a different story.
That's an authenticity issue, right?
Yeah, be honest, be transparent.
Right.
But that's why, again, try not to pretend to be something you're not. Focus on who you are.
Absolutely.
Your story can connect with people. People connect on shared values.
Yeah.
It's subconscious. They're not even aware of it.
That's how we connect. When you say
That's how
shared
we
values.
connected.
Absolutely. When I reached out to you, I appreciate the speed of the response, the openness, the authenticity, the transparency, all the values that you talk about in your LinkedIn profile just on the very first time when we decided what are we going to talk about in our preliminary conversation. And I found that's one of my criteria, Chris. That's one of the criteria to bring people on the series is to find like-minded people who at least look at the world in a similar way that I do. And that's your energy was the criteria. I said, yes, this is the gentleman would like to speak to because he's so open and he's authentic and he's speaking from experience. And that truly matters a lot.
Yeah, it does. It does. And those values that, follow through, we're punctual, those types of things. I mean, for me, my core values are transparency, honesty, and integrity. Yours may be slightly different, maybe not verbatim, but yet we can still connect. There's those shared values, and that's all subconscious and why people connect. So I'm a firm believer. Why try to force something that I'm not here to convince people. I'm not here to persuade people to see my point of view. I'm here to simply share something, exemplifying that coming out through my core values and allowing you to draw your own conclusion what that means to you. That's it. Make it compelling to other people and empower them to decide what they like to do with it.
And live the message. And we often overlook this component, living the message. I don't know if it was John Maxwell who said this about leadership. He said leadership is knowing the way. And step 1 is know the way. Step 3 is show the way. But there is a step 2, which people often overlook, which is go the way. So very simply, it's not only about knowing the way. And what happens, fueled by social media, what you rightly said about people trying to be someone else, there's this whole hyper-competitive environment out there, which has been fueled by social media because that's where we can very selectively put out what we want to put out. That's where we can create that image that we like, and we want others to like it too, but that's not the full image. That's not us. Our darker side is missing. Our moments when we are feeling low or angry or anxious or all those other human emotions, they're missing out on social media. And I think this is the mistake, especially a lot of youngsters make these days, is by trying, putting others on a pedestal and say, I want to be like this guy and he's the god of this and I'd like to be like him or her, not knowing he or she is someone just like you struggling with their own issues. Right. So and we as influencers and leaders and thought leaders and speakers and coaches, we have this responsibility to do the step number 2, not only know the way, not only show the way where we make a living, but also number 2, which is go the way, because that's when, and I see you speak a lot about authenticity. And in fact, that leads me to my next question. Authentic leadership is one of your keynote topics as well. You speak a lot about it, you embody it. Tell us, please, Chris, what pointers would you have in a social media obsessed world for our audience who might be listening? How can they be more authentic as leaders and as individuals?
I would say that, again, when you're able to provide content, whether if you're speaking on stage, virtual, through your social media, let it be things that are compelling to other people, that reflect your values. And because it's not just your values, it's their values too. That's how people are connected. They're connecting on your why and their why. Right. They don't care what you do until you give them a reason why. So as authentic leaders, we have the ability to really be transparent and with social media, putting out content, contextual content that's indirect or direct to what you do. But a lot of times it's more indirect to what you do because it's more about the why. People connect with people that they feel that relate to them and that understand them. When people feel related to and understood, you've now given them a reason want to know what you do and how that can work to help them or somebody they know that they feel comfortable referring to you. So authentic leaders really understand insight. They understand that, but that insight alone is just what it is. It's knowledge, but they know how to apply it and convey it in a way that allows people to draw their own conclusion from it. That's being compelling.
So they're not trying to force their point of view on someone else.
They're not trying to persuade at all. They're sharing. They take initiative. They're proactive in every aspect. So they're always one step ahead of the curve. They are influence. They influence. Now, influence doesn't mean you persuade someone to see your point of view. Again, you share to empower people to draw their own conclusions, being compelling. We do it with impact, because impact means the consistency. The more consistent you are with connecting with others, the more likely they're going to be thinking about you when the time comes when they require something that you can now help them. That could be people working for you. That could be the customers you serve, whatever the case may be. And finally, the fifth, when these are 5 I's I'm talking about, the letter I is integrity, that we're always doing the right thing when no one's looking. So it's when you can do the right thing when no one's looking, it always comes back to you.
Not just on social media.
Ways. Yeah. Not just in social media. It comes back in many ways. And it goes back to a statement or a quote that I always share with people. You give without expectation. Now, when I say give without expectation, you don't do it to please and enable others. You do it from empathy and kindness to be an example and resourceful for others to do for themselves.
Great.
Give without expectation, receive without resistance. Wow. So when it comes back to you from somewhere else, not where you gave it,
right,
you receive it.
Don't say I don't deserve it, which is sometimes especially when the emptiness is still there, we say, probably, this all that appreciation.
Oh, you don't have to do that. That's fine. I'm good.
Yeah.
You're not only denying yourself, you're denying the person that offered it to you and other people that could be in close proximity. This is energy. So it's like a boomerang. What you put out there comes back. So you're putting out good and you're doing it from a place from interdependency. It comes back to you. You give out bad, then it comes back to you.
It does indeed. It doesn't. I love those 2 mantras. I think they're worth repeating. One is give without expectation, and the second one was receive without resistance. Give without expectation, receive without resistance. So when it comes your turn to receive, soak it in. I remember from
you got to fill your cup up.
Absolutely.
You can't give what you don't have. So when you give, you're depleting your cup slightly. Now you have to receive to fill it back up, and then repeat again. Give without, and it's an ongoing cycle.
Receive without resistance. I think a lot of people do evolve eventually to a spiritual place where they're able to give without expectation. However, they still don't follow the step 2 that you just mentioned, which is to receive without resistance, because they push it away. I remember in one of Jack's workshops, we did this. He divided the entire conference room into 2 halves, and one half would get up and just look at everybody else and give them a standing ovation for 60 seconds, right? We'll just look into the eyes of the other half of the room, people sitting in the other half. This is what I miss the most about conferences now, Chris, in the real conferences. You can't do stuff like this in virtual events. But it was so much fun, because we would turn to those people, look them in the eye, and give them a standing ovation for the next 60 seconds, which was, wow, some of them had tears rolling down their cheeks because they never had this sort of undivided attention, especially in public, especially from strangers, right? And I could see some of them were sort of very, skeptical about it in the beginning, perhaps, a little closed, you could see from the body language, and then they slowly began to open up and
open up. I've seen that many times where I get somebody that's doing this, and then all of a sudden they open up, and then I remember doing this a training at an aerospace company, and I had a 25-year veteran, a manager. In this case, she was a VP, and she had a hard time with people over those 25 years. She had people that would come in, go out. It was a turnstile of people, and she always thought it was the people. She hired the wrong people. She didn't realize that she was the catalyst in all this, because the way she treated people. And she did this not intentionally. She did it because of her own level of self-esteem and confidence and her own limiting beliefs. And I saw her have an aha moment in one workshop I did where she started crying. And I can remember the the head of human resources looking at me going, what is going on? And I said, it's okay. This is going to be good. You know, that I said it like that. But nonetheless, this woman had an aha moment and changed over time how she began to communicate and behave and present herself to people, and that people began to now really engage her now rather than disengage, because she was very difficult to deal with. And so this was someone that had an aha moment. So somebody that you said, it went from this to more engaged, and then eventually having an aha moment, crying and realizing that she had been her own problem all along.
And now dropping the resistance.
Dropping the resistance.
Yeah. And therefore making the best of this two-way process, this give and take, and the giving and receiving of energy. I really love that. Give without expectation. I think it's worth repeating once again. Give without expectation and receive without resistance. In fact, I recited and put out a poem on YouTube the other day, which hangs on Mother Teresa's children's home in Kolkata, which goes something, even if you're honest, people will cheat you. Be honest anyway. If you are happy, people will accuse you of being self-centered. Be happy anyway, right? And in the end, it goes, what you build today might not last tomorrow. Build anyway. If you succeed, people will say that you were clever or whatever, but succeed anyway, because in the end, it's not between you and them. It's always between you and God. And I think that's a profound reminder there that we must live from our place of integrity. If it's in your nature that you are a lifter, you want to make the world a better place, that you derive joy and satisfaction from it, then liberate yourself from recognition and applause and appreciation and all those things that we so deeply depend upon. And that's liberation. That's true liberation. Thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. I want to dig a little bit deeper into the titles of your two books. One of them is around the inner critic, and the other one is Mastering the Art of Success. Procrastination is a huge issue, especially with solopreneurs and creative people. And any tips on, based on your books, on your research, on your study, any tips for our viewers how to overcome procrastination and do the work that is most important?
Absolutely. So procrastination is just a byproduct of anxiety. Anxiety is a byproduct of the stress that's generated based from fear from a triggering situation. So when you have a triggering situation and it's going to raise a level of stress in the body that raises cortisol, that's going to lead then to a level of anxiety, and then that's going to lead to procrastination. Procrastination either can be that you're not following through or taking action, or you're busy, but you're not productive.
Right.
Many people are busy, but not productive. That's just another form of procrastination. It's all a result of fear-based thinking in the fixed mindset, operating in the past.
They're looking for the escape. They're looking for something to escape to.
So you have a triggering situation.
Yeah.
Something then raises a level of fear. That fear then goes to the past, attaches itself to a limiting belief or beliefs, gets projected into the future, creates a level of anxiety telling you that you're not capable of doing something or you're not worthy, whatever that may be. And then that's what can then lead to procrastination. So the key is to, the way to really get out of the problem, the solution is to get to the root cause of those limiting beliefs, to remove them over time.
Right.
But it's also learning to be present in the present moment from a growth mindset. When you are present,
I agree.
fear is reduced. And when fear is reduced, it doesn't trigger that anxiety level that can then, so when you have more clarity and more focus, you're more likely now to be decisive. You're more likely to take a risk and following through on things. So those would be the things that I would say are the things you could address procrastination. And when you learn how to really lay out your goals very specifically, like everything that you know that you can write down, you write down. The more specific you are, the better you're going to be able to achieve your results. Letting go of everything else, trusting the process, detaching from expectations to outcomes.
Right.
Matter of fact, if expectation is not even in my vocabulary anymore. I don't even operate from that. I focus on what I can control, what I know, let go of everything else, and I focus on doing each task ranked by the priorities that matter each day, and I allow the puzzle pieces that I don't have to come into play each day, each week, each month, each quarter, each year to complete my puzzle. That's my results. The
So you're living
results
in the
are a
moment.
byproduct of what you do in the moment by controlling what you can, letting go of what you can't from a growth mindset.
And that must be liberating, because you're no longer looking out for, the outcomes. You're busy with the processes. You're loving the processes so much. You're enjoying the process so much. And as you rightly said, you're more present in the moment, and the fear goes away. Fear goes away. You're no longer afraid of taking action, especially on the things that matter the most. And I so relate to that, because when there's an anxiety, even at a subconscious level, you're looking for an escape, whether that's the unnecessary phone call, whether it's spending time on or checking your notifications. There'll always be something to distract, right? And
Yes.
when you're in the moment, and as you said, when the fear is gone, when you're enjoying the process, that's when you're able to create your best work. Wow, those are profound words. Thank you, Chris. Before we let you go, two quick questions. One is about, given the opportunity to go back in time and offer some words of inspiration and advice to your 22-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
Wow, there's a lot of things I would tell you,
Open.
because I was not in a good place at 22 years old.
Right,
I lived in
right.
fight or flight state, constantly stressed. Oh boy, it was not. What I would say to myself, that it's you have, it's learning how to control what you can and let go of the rest. Just control your behavior, your communication, your attitude, and the action you take. That's all you have to be responsible for. You're not responsible for your wife's behavior, attitude, her action. You're not responsible for your husband's, your children. You're not responsible for the economy. You're not responsible for COVID. You're not responsible for anything other than that. This can help take the burden off of trying to control what you can't control. When you can do that, this is what's going to help create more focus and clarity and allow you to accomplish more things that will raise your level of self-esteem and confidence. That's what I would have told my 22-year-old self. And I could have had a major jump start on it early had I known all this, rather than in my 30s when I figured this out.
I can relate to that, but there's got to be a learning process, right? We have to
So I'm
go
grateful
through
for
those.
everything
Yeah,
that's happened.
we have to go through those. Yeah, and maybe we wouldn't be at this point of clarity and understanding today if we wouldn't have gone through those challenges or that confusion.
Yes.
So, but I love what you said about, and I was actually, while I was breathing in, I was allowing those words I was soaking them in, about not focusing too hard on things which you cannot directly control. And I know it's tempting, and I know the way the media presents it, or how it's presented to us on Twitter or WhatsApp, it's so exciting that they are able to draw our attention to it, and yet we cannot do anything about it. So all we need to do is just redirect that energy back to what we can do. And there's a lot that we could do, right? There's a lot we could do, asking yourselves the empowering questions. Parting words of inspiration for our viewers. Chris, you've been very generous with your time.
Thank you.
It's been a great conversation here. What would you like to say to our viewers? Most of them are especially young students, young professionals in the age group of 20 to 25, unsure, lacking self-belief. What are the words?
I would just say, every one of you out there that's listening, you all have your strengths, your weaknesses. Put more emphasis on your strengths. You have a story. You have something that can be compelling and that can help somebody else find that within themselves to do the same. I just want to let everybody know here that's listening, you all matter. You matter. You are not here because you're worthless and who would want to listen to me? You matter. You all have something to give to this world. It's just a matter of honoring your truth, being transparent, and leveraging those strengths and finding something, a business or something that brings you joy, that plays to your core values, to help other people help themselves. So again, you matter.
There you go, folks. You matter, and believe in yourself. Honor yourself, as you said. I love those words. Honor yourself. Honor your struggles. Honor your journey. And don't obsess about your weaknesses, because we all have some of them. Focus on your strengths, and that's where it'll take you to wonderful places. Chris, once again, a big round of virtual applause for you, my friend. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I'm sure our audience is going to benefit a lot from this conversation, a lot of nuggets of wisdom. I appreciate your time once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.